You ever had one of those moments where you overhear a conversation and before you know it, you've jumped in? Well, that's what happened to me recently while I was standing in line at the store. I overheard this guy talking about employment in America, and yeah, I ended up being that guy who struck up a conversation because of all the research I'd been doing for my videos. We got into it and I had all of these facts to break down, but there was one piece of information that I just couldn't share with him because honestly, I think it would have blown his mind. It was just too much to handle. But don't worry, I'm going to share it with you today. So let's walk through what I told him and more importantly, what I didn't. And by the end, you'll see why this piece of information changes everything. So this guy starts telling me how immigrants are flooding in, taking all the good paying jobs and leaving Americans without any work. When I said, well, actually, then he gave me that, oh no, what does this idiot want to tell me look? But I could tell at least he was curious. I get it. A lot of us have heard that message, but I told him, hey, let's look at the numbers. Home Depot alone has over 20,000 open jobs, and that's across positions like customer service, sales, freight, and warehouse jobs. And it's not just them. Lowe's is in a similar situation with thousands of open spots across the country. My buddy Wayne, who works at Lowe's, says they're having to lower their standards just to get enough people hired. And they still can't fill the spots. Now, this guy wasn't buying it, so I kept going. But that's not all. I always want to say that in my best game show voice, but I didn't. Walmart is also trying to fill over 20,000 positions, and Amazon has around 75,000 openings in their fulfillment and transportation networks. And Target? Well, they've been ramping up hiring, trying to fill thousands of roles for the holiday season. In customer service, logistics, and distribution, even the biggest companies in America can't find enough people to keep things running smoothly. We've all felt it. Then he said, well, my dad just retired last year, so maybe that's part of it. And I told him, hey, I'm actually a baby boomer myself. And I just recently retired too. The baby boomers, my generation, it's the largest generation in history, and we're retiring every single day. We're leaving the workforce faster than younger generations can replace us. And that's leaving even more unfilled positions. It's one of the biggest reasons why we have this labor shortage. I could tell this was making him think, but then he asked, so why aren't Americans filling those jobs? And I smiled and told him, that's a great question. Even if every unemployed American took a job tomorrow, we'd still be short by millions of workers. Right now, there's 6.7 million unemployed people, but after looking into it more recently, I found out that only about 4.5 million of them are likely employable. So even if we filled every one of those 4.5 million jobs, we'd still be short 3.6 million workers. That's how big the gap is. We have 8.1 million open positions and we don't have enough Americans to fill them. His face looked a bit confused, like he was still processing it. And I understand. At that point, I figured I'd keep going. Hey, let's look at agriculture. Over 70% of U.S. farm labor is done by immigrants. And without them, who's going to pick our food? I asked him if he knew anyone who would do that or if he'd go pick food himself. And he said, oh, no way. Most Americans aren't willing to do that kind of work, even for $30 an hour. And if they did, our grocery prices would... It kind of reminds me of what happened in Georgia a few years ago when they cracked down on migrant labor. They thought it had solved their problems, but you know what happened? Farmers lost crops. There weren't enough workers to pick them, and I could see he wanted to ask me what happened, but he'd already finished checking out and gave me a wave as he left. That's a good sign, right? As I walked away, I realized I hadn't even told him the most surprising facts. And I'm going to share it with you right now. I'd already shown him that we're 3.6 million workers short right now. But what if I had told him about the 7 million undocumented immigrants currently employed in the U.S.? And here's the kicker. Millions of customer service and manufacturing jobs have been offshored over the years. Imagine if we tried bringing back those jobs to the United States and raised wages to attract people to do those jobs U.S. companies sent overseas. I just didn't have the heart to tell them, we'd probably need more immigrants to fill those jobs. But here's what I'm telling you. This isn't just an immigration issue. It's an economy issue, and it's one we can't afford to ignore. Well, soon I was driving home and I spotted a Waffle House, and I thought, oh, Waffle House. Hey, maybe that's what I need right now. And while I figure that out, here's another video to keep you on your journey of discovering the real facts. See ya!